Smoking Barrels. I'm gonna shave my head and put on a Cuban military jacket and start a fucking rally about this shit.
Smoking Barrels. Timmy, you never win anything in the claw machine.
Smoking Barrels.
I just said fuck on our podcast.
You're listening to the Smoking Barrels podcast with Mike and Ben.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Smoking Barrels podcast. I'm here again with my friend Michael. We are in a new studio in my house that I set up. Hopefully it's quiet. We were trying to do a background noise check, get some fans and stuff turned off, and it's looking pretty good. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. But yesterday, man, I was not doing so good. I was hot, man. I was driving to my job on the highway, and I just came across, this Porsche that was just parked in the middle of the highway. This soccer mom and her friend with a minivan were parked not off to the side of the road, but straight up in one whole lane of the highway with their hazards on so their daughters could take pictures. And I almost crashed right into her. And she turned and looked at me, and she flipped me off like I'm the bad guy. Who the hell parks in the middle of a highway?
What kind of highway are you talking about?
We're talking about 42.
Oh, so like a major, it's not like a back road.
No, it's not a back road at all. No,
it is legitimately a highway.
No, it was legitimately a highway, but you came out and you're like, oh, I'm a trophy wife. I'm going to bring out my blue ugly Porsche, and I'm going to park in the middle of the fucking street.
One of the SUV Porsche?
No, it was like a sports car Porsche.
Oh, okay.
And it was just, threw the hazards on, and my car, it screeched, and my backpack did a front flip, and it jacked up my laptop. I was very upset. And so I'm sitting there like, what the hell is wrong with people? I was ready to get out of the car and like just scream at her. So I just like laid on the horn for a good 5 seconds so she knew where I was coming from. Because that's so rude.
There's no reasonable expectation that you should be prepared to stop dead on a highway.
No.
I mean, the speed limit's like, what, 45, 55 through most of that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's a back road.
No.
It's a major thoroughfare.
No, to hold up the entirety of traffic is rude as hell. And
what were they taking pictures of?
Just, I don't know, their daughters were sitting on this fence by Sutherland, and they were just taking pictures of it. They were just parked in the middle. So my question is, how do you get to that point where you're just like, oh, hey, look, a fence. Hey, Lacey, get out, and then let's take pictures of you. Like,
quick slap on the hazards. Let's just stop and hold up everyone else.
Yeah, no, it was ridiculous, and everybody was getting out of the way like it was no big deal. I mean, I saw the minivan was pulled kind of off to the side, so I was like, okay, I'll move out of the way, and I get back in the lane, and I'm looking to my right to make sure they don't, one of the stupid daughters, and pop out and like get hit by a car. So I'm like trying to pay attention to them, and all of a sudden I look forward, I see this blue Porsche coming faster and faster at me, and I like slam on my brakes in a heartbeat. My heart's going. I'm looking over. She's coming over. I'm like laying on the horse. She's flipping me off. And I just peeled out and drove away. And the entire way to my job, I was hot, man. I was very pissed.
And it's not just that she stopped clearly where she should not have, but then when you were displeased about it, she had the nerve to flip you off and be indignant about it.
Right.
Like she thinks, no, he's the asshole.
Yeah.
Did they at least try to get off the road? Like, or were they just literally just in the...
No, it was like if you're driving on a highway and you just stopped in the middle of the lane and just parked there.
That's unbelievable.
I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. Like driving with my family, driving by myself. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life.
I've never seen anything like that either. And the thing about 42 is that out to the Prospect area, that's like the only road out there.
Right.
It's not like you all just go around or whatever. No, it's a major detour if you have to go anywhere else.
Right.
Why would you... the thought process of the person who I have to imagine is so self-important that they're like, no, that's fine. We'll just hold everybody up and, whatever. They'll live, Fuck them. Jesus Christ. I can just imagine you, by the way, how angry you get about that stuff.
Well, after my backpack did like a front flip and everything, I was like, holding my arm out to like protect it kind of poorly, I might add. I was like, just in awe for the next half hour or so. It was, I couldn't understand it.
So talk to me about their mindset. I mean, obviously they probably grew up out there. Is this just to them like not a big deal? Like they're just so detached, or they just consciously being dicks?
Maybe both, honestly. Maybe they're like, I don't really care if you. It's one of those situations where it's like the feminist is like, you don't deserve me if you don't like me in my worst, you don't deserve me in my best. It's one of those ideas where it's like, yeah, you know what? If you can't handle me here, then you could fuck off because you're a jerk. And it's like, no, I think parking in the middle of a highway is very rude, and I would personally not do it, even though maybe I am a jerk.
I'm not a particularly angry driver, but I probably would have yelled something out the window.
Oh,
like get the fuck off the road or something. I mean, I know that doesn't help shit, but it makes me feel better about the fact. Like, what if you'd hit them?
Right.
What do you think? What do they think? The insurance company's going to side with them?
My question is, whose fault would it be? That's the other thing that went through my head. Whose fault is it? Because
Theirs.
I'm driving and I hit them, but they're also parked on a highway. Theirs?
Well, yeah. I mean, unless they had some like ace insurance agents or whatever who were going to say, no, he rear-ended me. No, you'd be like, there's two people, plenty of witnesses. They're stopped dead in a highway around a corner, and I tried to slam on the brakes and I hit them. I mean, they'd probably claim that you rear-ended them because that's a tough like way around it. But the onboard chips in cars can see level of braking and all that stuff. So if you were like, well, just check the chip in their damn car, and they'd be like, oh, they were dead stationary in park.
Right.
You would then that would have been the end of their.
It was a Porsche, so if I had to get a rental car, it was probably going to be pretty sweet considering they had probably dope insurance.
Yeah, not something like the General. I know.
No, exactly. Not like our friend Cody who got the Fiat that one time.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that. It would be like I
liked those cars. The Fiat 500, the Dingleberry, because it was in brown, right?
Right. It was so ridiculous, and the horn on that thing was just like beep beep. It was
adorable. It was funny because that was back in like
2014,
13 or 14. That was before those cars were. I mean, now you see them all the time,
right?
Comparatively. But he was the only one that I knew of whoever had driven one of those at the time. It was a weird rental car to go for.
Oh, I know. He was like, I could have gotten the Mustang. And I'm like, why didn't you?
Are you kidding me? He chose the 500 over the Mustang?
I believe that's how it went. Yeah, he was like, I could have gotten a Mustang, but they gave me a Fiat. And I'm like, what kind of insurance is this?
That's the most Cody decision I've ever heard. He goes, man, I don't know. I liked the little Dingleberry.
I like the brown color on this little piece of shit car.
This is kind of a bad story, but it relates. So I always forget the name of the road, but 42 is that main highway out there. And then it's less traveled, but still like you can always see somebody on it. Like it's far from just like a country road. I think is it 1693 or 1694? The Sleepy Hollow Road back there by the golf course. That's like, I had a Mini Cooper when I was 16 that I'd bumped around a few times, gotten in a few fender benders, and the nozzles that spray the windshield wiper cleaner fluid, one of them was fucked up, and it would spray off the side of the car on the passenger side.
Right.
And there was always bikers back there, like people riding their cycles, not motorcycles. And they just held everything up because there was so many turns you could never see far enough ahead to make a clean overtake of them or whatever.
Right.
So it would piss me off, and me and like Logan or me and somebody would be riding in my car, and we'd be just literally for like miles, we'd be stuck behind this guy doing 10 miles an hour, this motorcycle guy. And it was actually an awesome thing that I intentionally never made an effort to repair, because the windshield wiper cleaner bottle, you probably know where I'm going with this. You would overtake them and then turn it on, and it would directly spray them in the face as you went by. And it was the best thing. I would try and make it to where it was justified in my head, to where like, oh, it's, if I'm just like overtaking him and like after pulling up right behind him for 2 minutes or whatever, that's fine. But if he would not even pull off or make any attempt to help me over the winding road, then I would be like, all right, I'm spraying you with this shit. And I would spray right by, and the guy he'd be like, what the hell? He'd be like swiping it off his face and stuff. I mean, it was the perfect angle, man. Oh, I missed that car so much. That was a fun car to drive. But if somebody had stopped dead on like that road, which is similar to 42, I mean, you couldn't see. It's blind corners back there, and
you freaking nail them.
And people go 55 all the time. That's crazy.
Like, what the hell did you do to my car? Why were you parked?
I wanted to take a picture for fucking Instagram, or whatever, for my daughter. She's like, Mom, pull over.
All right, here's what you do. You go and you park at the Domino's parking lot, and then you kind of walk over. There you go. You can't walk a block and a half. I mean, for God's sakes, it's not rocket science here.
Or just hold that information in your head and come back and make a plan to do it. Don't just stop dead on the dime.
She's lucky she married up to like a lawyer or something or a doctor because God knows she doesn't have the brain cells.
Hey, that's
to make
sexist,
it
Michael.
herself.
How do you know she's not a CEO? Is it because she was out driving at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday?
Yeah, pretty much. That's how you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, the other thing that we do, this is all bringing me back to my early days of driving where, me and you both had that tendency to be like, I am the justice on the road.
Yeah, pretty much.
And we used to go to my friend's grandmother's house when we were like 16 or 17. And there was a McDonald's right there. That was the only place that stayed open late. And, of course, we being teenage boys were always staying up in the middle of the night. So we'd always end up hitting up that McDonald's. And there was this retirement community of like townhomes that the grandmother lived in. So everybody that came in and out of that place drove incredibly slowly, right? And it was another little road, even like it was an oddly thin road. Like the lanes were just noticeably too thin. It's like places out here in the Highlands. And we'd always get milkshakes or slushies or whatever from McDonald's. And Logan had this tendency to when he was riding with me, I was driving. But when we were stuck behind somebody and he got too pissed about it, as I would pass them, he'd throw it out the window. I mean, this is a terrible thing to do, really. God knows I could have given somebody a heart attack, but I feel like the statute of limitations is up. It's been a long time. But he'd throw it and be like, you'd hear like a and it would like slushy all over their car, and like they'd slam on the brakes and like or whatever.
You Weisenheimer!
What the hell? I mean, if it was a red one, they might have thought it was blood. I don't know. Maybe they hit something bad. Oh. They're like, oh, shit. Oh, man.
Gertrude, I hit a deer. So let's go. Can I explain to you what my original open was going to be?
For the podcast?
But yeah, before I almost nailed into this lady in the back.
Do tell.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I had to turn my apartment key. And everybody waited, because it was the last day you could do it. Everybody waited till the very last second to turn it in.
Right.
So I've been waiting in line for a half hour. And this girl has the audacity to walk up to me and say, hey, can I cut in front of you? Because I have work in 10 minutes. And I was so awkward about it, because I didn't want to flat out tell her no. But I was like, she's like, pretty please. And I'm like, no, because I've been waiting here kind of a while, and I have work.
What the fuck?
And the guy behind her, because my thought process was, if you're cutting in front of me, you're also cutting in front of everybody behind me, and that's not fair. The guy behind me swoops in all white knight like, you can get in front of me, honey, and he tries to chat her up the entire time. It was very uncomfortable, and the entire time I was driving home, I was sitting there like, how the hell dare you come over here? If it was that much of a big deal for you to come because you had a job in 10 minutes, you could have gone at 9 o'clock in the morning as soon as the place opened to turn it in.
Yeah.
Nobody forced your hand to seriously go over there at the 11th hour and do it. Okay? If you got to wait in line like everybody else, I don't care that you're a pharmacist assistant technician. Oh, you're so important.
Did she tell you what she did?
It was on. She had a name badge on in Scrubs. I was like, if you're a doctor, maybe I'll let you go because, some dude's brain dead and you got to save him.
I've got to get to the emergency room, but first I need to turn in my apartment key.
Yeah, no, your $700 a month apartment key for your studio. Good job. But, yeah, no, I was like, it was so rude. And she, basically was, eyeballing me the entire time, ready to, sock me in the face. And I was like, I don't care.
She was angry at you for not letting her, right?
Right. And it was she made that experience so uncomfortable because I was maybe 3 people from the front. And there was probably 25 people behind me. And I was like,
I mean, think about what that says, though. Where I have to go and what I have to do is more important than anybody else in this line.
Right.
So fuck you, let me get in here because I didn't plan ahead and I have no personal responsibility or time management or anything like that.
Right, exactly. It's not my fault that you're an idiot and you don't know what the hell you're doing. I mean, I don't know, maybe pick a different job. Maybe, I don't know, turn it in these several weeks beforehand where you could turn your key in instead of sitting there lollygagging around like a jackass for a while.
Well, on the flip side of that, why were you there at the last moment?
Oh, well, here's my thing. I turned all my stuff in the day before, but there was a pool pass they were going to charge you $35 for it. And it's seriously like a Livestrong bracelet. They were going to charge you $35 if you didn't bring it back on time. So I had until 12 o'clock that day to turn it in or I would have been fined for it. So I had to turn around, grab it the next day, and bring it back up. And I was basically waiting in line just to hand that in.
Oh, man.
So
they have a pool at your dorms? That was It's a hell of a place.
Yeah, but I got a Congressman Barney Frank bod, so that's why I don't really swim.
Man, looking back, I would have done it the way you did it.
What, you live straight
living
alone?
on dorms. Yeah, living alone, but I would have happily like worked in more than I otherwise did, like freshman year or whatever, and paid the price at $600 or $700.
Right.
It's like a studio apartment that's like a nice apartment,
Right.
and it's right by. I mean, that's really cool. I remember Bellarmine University. Me and Cody lived together freshman year, and our dorm was tiny, and it was like one of the newer, nicer ones
Right.
on that campus. But it was still like a closet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like probably 60% of the size of this room for two guys and all of our shit. And like communal bathrooms and all that stuff, whereas like you had your own. Man, it's just like, I think they think the quote unquote like administrator people who design the life of the students. There's a name for that job or whatever.
Yeah.
Like student something coordinator. They try to be like, oh, it's all about the experience of being social and living in the dorms. I'm like, no, because I hated it. It was all dirty, and we lived next to the fucking Lax Bros. And the lacrosse and soccer players and all that stuff, and the athletes who like weren't bad guys individually, but then you'd find yourself at 2:45 in the morning, they'd be playing soccer in the hallway, banging up against your door and all yelling and all that shit.
Yeah, I got finals in the morning, asshole. Can you stop kicking the fucking ball around?
And then of course I had no clout because I was just like I didn't play any sports or whatever, so they'd be like, oh, fuck you, we don't have to do what you say.
You know what it would have been hilarious? You take like a pin or like a knife or something, and you just pick up the ball and stab it and like pop it completely, and then you just throw it right back to them. Have a good night, dicks. And then you close the door.
If I thought I could get away with that without suffering any consequences, I would have. But it was like a whole team, like the whole floor was against me and like the four other people who are all friends of mine who lived near the door. That was the other thing. We lived like only a couple doors down from the door to get into that floor, the one that would be opening and closing all the damn time and was really loud, so you could never get away with it. They actually put three, like in the very first one of that hallway, they put three guys in the same room that I thought was way too small for two. And that blew my mind because this is not a cheap school.
Right.
And they're shoving these kids three into a closet and saying this is what you're paying the equivalent of like $40,000 a year to go to. That was fucking ridiculous in my mind. But luckily they give everybody, like almost everybody, some form of scholarships or whatever.
Right.
Dude, I got another story.
Go for it.
There was this actually is, so if the worst people that you interacted with in the last week were those people that were stopped on the side of the highway in 42, the best guy I interacted with was at a Walmart that me and Charles went to. We were going there because he just moved in, and we were like, oh, it's great to be kind of finally moved in, so we're going to get some beer and watch TV or whatever and just kind of relax the rest of the night. This was Friday night maybe of last week. And we went to this Walmart, which is open, I don't know if it's 24 hours anymore, but it's open till like 4 a.m. And we were going there at like maybe 1 a.m. It was pretty late when we got done with everything. And there was this guy who was like a 6'5" black guy. Looked like a basketball player. Like he had the shorts and all that stuff. And he was like walking around, and I thought he worked there because he had a blue shirt that vaguely looked like the ones that they wear. But then I was like, oh, never mind. And he kind of like pushed past me in an aisle or whatever. And he's like, oh, excuse me. And I'm like, oh, no, you're good, man. And it just seemed like a polite enough guy, an interaction that you would forget, for the rest of your life. I would never remember it again, except I saw him again when we rounded the corner to go check out at the registers. He was standing in front of this, I think they call them stack outs, like it's in the middle of the aisle, but it's more merchandise in a little square display. And it was near the kids section with all the toys and action figures and stuff. And he had this, I don't know if he put them there or if he it'd be even funnier if he went and got these individually because they're probably not next to each other. But there was a probably 6-inch tall, 5-inch wide plastic gorilla action figure on all fours, like King Kong or whatever, how they do on their, like stand on their knuckles on their front feet, arms, whatever. They stand on their knuckles. And then there was a T-Rex plastic action figure that was a little bit taller and a little bit bigger or whatever. And I can only imagine what happened is because I walked up in the middle of this, he walked down the aisle, saw these two things sitting around, and he just goes, oh, picks them up, and then makes it like the T-Rex is fucking the ape, and puts it right behind it on top of this stack out for like Trapper Keeper things. And then this is I walk up when he's about to, and he like takes a step back, looks at it, expressionless, and then walks away. And he's alone. Like, it's not like he was doing it to entertain somebody that he was with. And I was like, you know what? Whoever that man is, I bet we'd get along. I mean, that's just the most subtle, respectful fuck you. Like, the workers probably come by and be like, really?
I would have been crying, man. If I saw that, I would have been like, funny. That's amazing. I mean, because when the place I work at, the not Walmart red place I work at.
Why don't you just say it?
Because I don't want to get sued.
You're going to get sued.
Maybe.
For talking about Target.
Possibly.
It's like the biggest company in the world. I don't think they're worried about losing business because you have something negative to say.
Well, okay, so they got like these letters, and it's for like the college kids for like M if your name is like Mike, or like P if your name is Peter or Paul.
Yeah.
And so people like to go around and just like put things on there. So it's like one day I walk by there, it's like Bago Dicks, or like
wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or it's like suck me off or something. And
that seems kind of raunchy for Target. I'm like,
well, people just walk around and do it. That's what the employees do. The employees sit there and spell things. There's one guy that types in that put together like "es get it," which is I forgot what rapper it is, but he's like, I got something better. And he puts it all together, "es get it," and then he takes a picture of it and then walks away. This dude, I don't know what the hell he does, but that's just what we call him now. We just call him "es get it," and he apparently just walks around the store all day and does nothing except apparently put together "es get it."
And they pay him for that. Yeah. I'll tell you what, man. The biggest thing that I think made me angry, because obviously I was, all the other stories I've told so far are kind of funny, so I took them in stride. But the one that actually kind of made my blood run cold a little bit when I read it was, have you heard about the InfoWars controversy? I mean, this is going to timestamp this podcast hardcore because this just happened like last week.
Right.
But Alex Jones, for the very few of you out there who don't know, you should look up his videos on YouTube because he is absolutely a hilariously animated lunatic conspiracy theorist guy. I'd do my impression, but it would blow out the mic. I mean, he basically just, I don't know how his producer and his engineer work because he basically just screams all the time for his 3-hour show 5 days a week or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much.
So YouTube, they call it deplatforming. Mm-hmm. I think this is a term that's been completely invented for this scenario. They decided that, and obviously most everything he says is wild conspiracy theories and all that stuff, but it has a basis in reality just enough to where he says it's news, and he calls it, InfoWars, like a news organization, all that stuff. And to my knowledge, Apple was the first to remove his stuff from the store. I don't know if they removed like his, I think he like wrote a book that you can buy on Apple that they didn't remove for some reason. Mm-hmm. But Apple removed him, YouTube, Facebook, I think even Twitter, which is bullshit.
Twitter didn't.
Oh, Twitter didn't.
No, Spotify did.
Oh, Spotify did. Okay, because Twitter, I was like, you guys are really the ones that say we're all about. And they allow porn on Twitter.
This is the first time I'll ever, and probably last time I'll ever credit Jack Dorsey for being like, you know what, he didn't really do anything wrong, so we're not going to take him off, but we'll keep an eye on him if he does do something wrong. Like Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, is this left-wing guy who's judge, jury, and execution on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And for the first time in his entire life, I feel like he was like, you know what, this dude's a lunatic and all, but he hasn't broken any rules, so I'm not going to do anything about it.
And I think what really, really concerned, because obviously this is one of the only times you'll hear me giving an impassioned defense of Alex Jones.
Right.
I think he is absolutely the most symptomatic example of all the problems in our political dialogue today. Now, that being said, I cannot believe that we've reached a point where people are now applauding the decision by, obviously they're private companies, all of these companies, and they can curate their, online presence, however they want. I mean, they're not beholden in the same way that people would think they are. People say freedom of speech. I'm like, that's a right given to you by the government, not Facebook. Facebook doesn't owe you freedom of speech, right? They can put up or take down whatever the hell they want. But the reaction I was surprised by. First of all, I disagree with the decision fundamentally.
Right.
I think it's ridiculous that the impetus is now on Facebook to curate truth. Mm-hmm. Like hell it is. I mean, come on now. But what the reaction was so positive, people saying, oh, thank God they're standing up and taking a stand against fake news. And I was like, this is the most dangerous precedent I've ever seen applauded, right? It actually reminded me, because I've just recently been talking about Star Wars with somebody about how I hated The Last Jedi, of that scene in Revenge of the Sith when she goes, so this is how democracy dies, to thunderous applause. And I was like, people are like, that's a real cheesy line, and it kind of is. But I was like, yeah, you're goddamn right it is. Because people are now admitting that, no, it's not Alex Jones's fault. I misspoke. People are saying, no, it's not individuals' fault. It's Alex Jones's fault that people believe Alex Jones.
Right.
They're saying that it's not the fault of the people who buy into Alex Jones. It's Alex Jones. I'm like, that's ridiculous. They're diffusing all personal responsibility and all intellectual responsibility to be able to weed through fake news. And they're saying, no, you shouldn't be expected to do that. You should just be only provided with the quote-unquote truth. I mean, how Orwellian is that principle when you take it to its logical extreme?
You have these people too. They're sitting there going, when Donald Trump says, the press is the enemy of the people, which is a fairly dangerous thing to say.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, they're applauding Alex Jones being kicked off all these platforms. So which is it? Is the press the enemy of the people, or is the press not the enemy of the people, or is Alex Jones a lunatic that should be deplatformed completely for everything? You want both. You want your cake and eat it too. You want to have your cake and eat it too. And
exactly.
I don't get it.
At the end of the day, first of all, honestly, I have had marginally less of a problem with the president policy-wise, but I hate the rhetoric.
Right. No, I agree.
The talking, the endless talking. It's like he's never stopped campaigning. It's ridiculous. He should stop doing that. But how can we now say that responsibility doesn't 100% lie with the individual for their for how they consume and learn information? Right. I mean, so let's take that to the logical extreme. So Fox News and MSNBC are regarded respectively as the kind of right and kind of left versions of news. That's their business model, which, let's face it, they're a business. They're in it to make money, and they make money by catering to a certain political persuasion. Nobody really should deny that. If you do, I think you're a little out of touch. But if they, like, where does the line stop, I guess is my argument. So Alex Jones saying that, like, George Bush is like one of the lizard people and all that David Icke bullcrap about how, obviously that's ridiculous. But by removing it, you're saying this is so obviously extreme, and yet really that comes down to Facebook making a decision as to what is truth.
Right.
That's easy when it comes to, is George Bush a lizard? It's less difficult, right? Yeah. When you say, well, MSNBC reported it slightly different this way, and Fox reported it slightly different this way. So if you take that to the logical extreme, which, I mean, people are like, well, you shouldn't take it to the extreme. You have to. Yeah. It's a precedent. Precedent is so important in this country. By saying that it's Facebook's job to do that, well, how do they then... I mean, obviously, they're going to come down on the side of the MSNBC because of the people who work at Facebook. It's not a criticism. It's just a fact, right? Tech industry is largely probably left-leaning compared to, like, a lot of, like, the automotive manufacturing industry. Right. It's just where people go to, right? So they're going to... Are we going to say that Facebook is now going to say exactly what... I mean, how can we trust them to do that? They're a corporation beholden to their shareholders. I can't believe that people are happy with this decision. I know it feels like justice because he's an idiot yelling bullshit. Right. But you gotta look past the petty emotional satisfaction you might get by seeing somebody like him deplatformed to what it says about society right now.
I mean, it's also a slippery slope. Like, where does the buck stop? If you're going to get rid of an idiot like Alex Jones, I mean, what's next? What dominoes are going to fall next? Because you could sit there and pick what goes on your platform. But at the end of the day, you're going to alienate an entire group of people to try to think a way you do, but they will not do it. So you're just going to really hurt your business at the end of the day. I keep saying that. But it's, why would you want to alienate somebody? Just give them the information they're looking for. If they want it, they'll find it. And if they use your platform on it, then you're going to make more money.
That's the problem is people, I worry that this will lead to an environment online, at least, where if you look for it, you will find it might not be true. Right. If you look for it, you will find Facebook's version of what it is. But how do we know that's necessarily true? I mean, nobody should be under any delusion. These corporations aren't, they're not fact checkers. They exist to make money. Facebook exists to be profitable. That's why it exists at all. And I think to spin that, I mean, this is getting really political. Do we want to go down this rabbit hole?
Why not?
We're coming up on half an hour. Let's take a break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll decide if we want to continue on this political discussion or we want to talk about something else funny. We're going to take a break real quick, and we'll be right back. Hey, boys and girls. Welcome back to the Smoking Barrels Podcast.
The fact that you said boys and girls is so creepy. My God. What are you, Krusty the Clown meets like John Wayne Gacy?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
All right. You were going to tell me something.
So our the intro to our theme music is I've been holding off and telling you the name of this for quite a while now, but I'm excited to let you know that it is called the Mexican Hat Dance. That's the Mexican Hat Dance.
The Mexican Hat Dance. Yeah. I'm all about that. So, I think that's a great intro.
Oh, the Smoking Barrels Podcast is brought to you exclusively by the Mexican Hat Dance.
Well, we can't use any copyright. Is it copywritten?
I don't know. I don't really care either.
Surely it can't be.
It's probably public domain, right? I mean, if
well, technically Happy Birthday is in public domain.
Yeah, no,
everybody always likes to point that out. Is that still true? I'm pretty sure that was set to expire at some point.
I feel like it was, but at the same time, I really do like those cheesy ass like things that all the restaurants do. It was like happy birthday from all of us at Bennigan's, and
it's like they are so close, but it's not technically It's such a simple melody. I don't know how you could. It wasn't it like a couple school teachers or something that wrote it.
Yeah, it was just like two sisters or something that just wrote it, and they just copywrote. I don't know who saw it for the first time was like, this is all the birthday themes from now on.
I mean, it really is, though. Did you hear about, I forget what movie, but they wanted to use a bit of a Zeppelin song, like Immigrant Song or whatever, and they had to pay like tens and tens of thousands of dollars by the second in order to play that Zeppelin song in their movie or TV show or whatever.
That's insane.
Those guys were making so much money. Because think about Zeppelin as a band. They only had like 5 or 6 albums, and I mean, am I right?
I think they had about 8-ish.
No, really?
Yeah.
Because they had Zeppelin 1 through 4.
Right.
And then they
House of the Holy, Physical Graffiti, Coda.
And then that was it.
I think they had one more. I think I'm missing one.
No, it came out in 1983, and it wasn't that good. Coda was the last one.
There was one with Full in the Rain.
It came out after Coda?
No, it came out. It was the second to last one.
Okay. So but that was only I want to say that was like 1960 or 19 like what, like early 70s to like early 80s. I mean,
we're talking Zeppelin?
Yeah.
Zeppelin's first album was 1969.
Okay. So in 12 years, pretty much, 12 or 13 years. And then that was it. I mean, how many years has it been since 1983? A lot.
Yeah.
And they're still making, I want to say, I don't want to get it wrong, but I want to say there was like $200 and something thousand for like a 7-second clip of Immigrant Song that somebody paid to put it in their movie. That blew my mind. But anyway, I want to make a quick point about, before the break, we were talking about Alex Jones and him being deplatformed and what I thought and what you thought that said about the political climate. I think we're both in agreement that it's really, like, as much as it feels good
right.
that he was deplatformed because he's an idiot and it feels like justice, it's actually indicative of a huge problem. And I would say that beyond that, we have created, because a lot of people, including friends of ours, will say, no, it needs to be the government's job to come in and say to Facebook, either allow Alex Jones and allow free speech, and they need to, people are arguing for increased regulation because they think it'll protect free speech on these platforms. And I say, okay, well, at the point we're at now, I might well agree to some extent, but think about how we got here. More regulation and I hate to sound like these far right guys, but more regulation is not the answer in this case. Because let's say hypothetically that this was a car company that was doing this, and they're going to say we're going to de-automobile Alex Jones. He's never allowed to drive another Toyota.
Right.
What would he do? He'd say, well, I mean, fuck Toyota first of all, but I'm going to buy a Nissan or a Chevy or a Ford or GMC or any of these other car companies, right? Because it's competition in the free market. What's he going to say? I mean, Facebook kicks him off. Well, you going to go to the other Facebook? Right. There is no other Facebook. There's absolutely no competition. So, of course, these companies are going to be able to play roughshod over whoever they want, including the government.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the problem is we've antitrust legislation was passed to prevent these kind of exact scenarios because it was the oil companies and the railroad companies back in the day they had the what they call them, trust busters or something. under the first Roosevelt, and he was all, we're busting up all these monopolies and all that stuff. I feel like that needs to happen today if we're going to claim, and the convincing argument can be made, that the internet is becoming more and more a necessity, not just a service to be purchased.
I'd agree.
I mean, think about, the last time you or I applied for a job. I can almost guarantee it was online.
I can tell you I've never applied for a job that was not online.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, okay, me too. I think my very first job was paper. But, I mean, it's just that's not the way it is anymore. People do their banking online, taxes, the IRS. I mean, you can file all that shit through TurboTax online.
Right.
I mean, if we're going to keep going this direction, and I'm not, obviously I would prefer that it be competitive. That,
right.
If Facebook does something fucked up, Alex Jones goes to the other Facebook, right? Or YouTube to the other YouTube. But none of this stuff exists. There are no alternatives to these platforms because they've been allowed to grow too big already. And I think that's a failure of legislation to catch up to changing technology.
Right.
So obviously I would prefer there be competition, and I think that's the essence of it. But we've gotten to a point now where I think it's a little too late for that. Because if you want to start up, like look at Vine or Instagram or Snapchat or any of these social networks that got huge, but the reason they got huge is because somebody started them, and then one of the big boys bought them immediately. And how could you realistically say no to some of the prices they were offering?
Oh yeah, $1 billion for Instagram. I'd be like, okay, I'll retire early then.
They bought it for $1 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit, I'd sell out too. And there's just you can't compete. If you and I got together tomorrow and decided we're going to start a competitor for Facebook, first of all, we'd fail. But the absolute best case scenario is they would be just threatened enough to offer us a ridiculous sum of money to shut the fuck up.
Which I would take.
So would I. Because why would I not? Otherwise, I'll just probably fail. That is a monopoly. How did we get to this point? It's a trust. Oh, shit, we forgot to turn the ceiling fan off.
I thought I did. I thought it was slowing down.
Well, hopefully that doesn't. I wonder if I'll have to check in post if you can hear the ceiling fan and the mics. Hopefully not. But
if you hear ceiling fan, I'm sorry. I didn't pull the thingy enough.
God damn it, Michael. This is very professional production here at Smoking Barrels.
That's why I said thingy, so they really know how much I care about this.
Well, anyway, I just can't believe that.
I also wanted to say that in our criticism of Alex Jones, we are probably a part of the lizard people now. So,
oh yeah,
if you are a lizard, Ben, please tell me so I don't, get eaten.
I have actually, let me pull it up here. I have the Alex Jones soundboard, I think, on my phone.
Think we'll get sued for that?
No, surely that's not copywritten.
Turn the frickin' frogs gay.
Well, that's the one I was gonna play.
Well, let's get the real thing.
You beat me to it. No, I don't. I think I deleted it actually.
Oh man, I like when he.
Sorry.
I like when he rips his shirt off and shows off his dad bod. And he's like, "Yeah, look how muscular and vascular I am."
God, do we want to start just doing Alex Jones impressions?
Go give me your best Alex Jones impersonation.
Well, Michael, I think at the end of the day we're on the same team. All right, it's all about the government, and they're keeping the little boy down. And Sandy Hook was a false flag operation.
He always sounds like he's choking or like out of breath, and they're about to on death's door. Like that can't be good for him to talk like that all the time.
He's got a hell of a voice. I think it's just there was a funny The Onion, the satirical news article.
Yeah,
there was an article that came up after the Alex Jones things where it's like Alex Jones decides to return to his humble roots of screaming at people through a megaphone after he got deplatformed.
Dude, I'd pay money to see that.
That's absolutely true.
He goes out to New York City with a megaphone and he starts spouting nonsense at people on like public property. I would pay to see that. What's your price? What would you pay to see for that?
I'd definitely pay the price of admission. But there was a video of him in Texas doing just that way back in the day, like early Alex Jones.
Right.
Like he was in some government office refusing to do something simple like, "Oh, Alex, hey, you got to pay your electric bill."
"I'm not doing it."
It's like, okay, well, I mean, it's just the funny thing is like when he was I know I'm going to get some shit for saying this, but he actually made some legitimate points back in the day.
Oh dear God.
Yeah, I know. No, but hear me out. So obviously he's a fucking lunatic. Okay,
right.
But he was one of the first ones to. I don't know if he broke the story, probably not, but he was the first one to start getting the conversation rolling about these professional protest people. Mm-hmm. Not here necessarily, but in China it was a big thing. So the state had paid actors that would go in. This is not speculative. This happens.
Right.
Now I would debate I would seriously question whether it ever has happened on U.S. soil.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would be inclined to say probably not.
You could rile up some idiot for anything, but continue.
And the Chinese government wanted an excuse to send in greater force against a lot of the protests that they were having to deal with throughout the 2000s. So they would have people go in and start violence so that they could then respond with force. It makes absolute sense when you're thinking about the Chinese government and how really intellectually repressive they're trying to be against 21st century technology. It's amazing that they've been able to sustain their model at all. The things like the Great Firewall has so many holes in it that information is getting to China in this day and age, and yet still there's very little public upheaval comparatively. But and anyway, I got off track there. But he was the one that said, look at the I got to go back to the impression.
Look at their boots. They're clearly wearing military style uniforms here, going into these protests, and they're paying stage plays. These are paid actors
and all that stuff. But he was actually right about that.
Yep.
And so and then of course he took it to the next extreme and said it's
as he usually does,
as he absolutely always does, and says there's chemicals in the water turning the frogs gay, and chemtrails and lizard people and all this nonsense.
If he really believes himself, which I don't know if he does, I don't think he does, but if he did, how must it feel to walk around every day being afraid of literally everything, from like the air you breathe to the water you drink? Like, it's got to be hard to like look around and not think, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I'd be strapped with a gat all the time.
It's funny that you bring that up because first of all, I agree with you, but second of all, how does he reconcile what he thinks is happening in the world with how no one ever comes after him?
Right.
Like, like how does he, like at home when he's got his big ass gut out and his wife beater and he's having some Miller in front of the TV, how does he reconcile the fact that he thinks that the fucking elites are trying to eliminate 90% of the population and the government's doing false flag, killing kids, and yet they let this idiot in Texas just be on his own?
Yeah, could you imagine that? Oh, damn, he knows exactly what we're doing. Really?
If he's spouting so much truth, why has he just been totally unbothered? Right? But the problem is now he's saying, well, I've been deplatformed. They're trying to silence my message. And I'm like, come on now, guys. Facebook, you actually made Alex Jones 1% more credible. How dare you?
I know, I agree. And
it is a crime.
There was something you said a second ago in passing that might not have resonated. But you said he's drinking a Miller. You don't think Alex Jones has at least tried to brew his own beer because he's like Freedom Beer or Freedom Hops, because he grows his own everything because he's afraid that somebody's going to drug his beer and like try to kill him?
It's a conspiracy. Big beer.
I swear to God,
all these conspiracies.
Every time he goes to sleep, he's probably expecting, oh man, I'm going to wake up in the Saw bathroom and I'm doomed. Like, that's what the government does to people. They just put him in the Saw bathroom. Hello, it's Donald Trump. No, not Donald. Barack Obama. I'd like to play a game with you.
I'd like to play a game. I play the better games, the best games, way better than my predecessors' games. Okay, folks. That's my Donald Trump impression.
I mean, that's probably what he does every night. Dear Jesus, please do not have me wake up in the Saw bathroom. I like my legs.
No, it's funny because
Spoiler.
In the world that he has created for himself, which by the way, he was on. I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast back in the day. And somebody came on and Alex Jones got brought up. I think it was maybe Cenk Uygur did a podcast and they brought up Alex, and Cenk was like, I don't know if he actually believes what he believes. And Joe Rogan apparently has known Alex for a number of years. And he goes, no, he definitely believes what he says. And I was like, so that actually, like, maybe it's liberating to be that crazy.
Like, when Joe Rogan sits there and says, like, I think Alex is like a genuinely good guy. Like, I think if he pays his taxes and doesn't kill anybody, I mean, that's a low precedent, but you're probably an all right person. At the same time, you're spouting ridiculous, insane propaganda. It's like beyond the propaganda of Fox News and MSNBC and even the Young Turks. It's just like horrifying nonsense.
It is absolute nonsense. There was one where there was this, you remember the folk song somebody did? There was like a Bon Iver type style folk song they made with the Alex Jones words. I'd pull it up if I thought of it ahead of time, but it was hilarious. But in that, one of the lyrics that they said, which he actually did say, was that Hillary and Obama are demons trying to steal babies out of the womb. And I'm like, how? If you want to be taken seriously, which I don't know. Maybe that's not his goal. I don't know. But presumably he wants people to hear his quote unquote truth. I mean, in what world do you think people are going to be like, wow, yeah, he's got something there?
I mean, he's got what percentage of his? I believe he had 2 million subscribers on his main channel before he was kicked off YouTube. What percentage of those people do you think legitimately buy into what he's saying compared to the other side that's like, this guy's an idiot and I'm really entertained by it?
I can't believe it's more than 10%.
You think?
Yeah, honestly, I do. And I think that of that 10%, a sizable portion are the people who like to say all that stuff, but like don't actually have any beliefs one way or the other. They just like to be the out group. You know, they like to, because I mean, what is attractive about conspiracy theories? Because especially in America, we love conspiracy.
Right.
But my problem with any conspiracy theory is the same people that will say that the government and tens of thousands of public servants over hundreds of years have been propagating these incredibly complex lies and deceptions. It's the same government that you'll say is completely incompetent when it comes to tax policy.
Right.
Well, you can't have it both ways. I mean, which way is it? Either the government is horrendously incompetent, as you believe it is today, or it's, I mean, the government that is efficient enough to maintain absolute control over something like the secrecy of the Sandy Hook thing. Let's say that's fake, which is a ridiculous thing to say.
Oh, yeah.
It is ridiculous doesn't even do it justice. It's an absurd thing to say.
Right.
But let's say, do you really believe in this day and age the hundreds, if not thousands of people involved in an operation like that, none of them are writing books?
Right.
None of them are posting cryptic messages about it on social media trying to get the truth out?
Well, Alex Jones would say, they're all dead. So, you know.
I mean, it's a ridiculous thing to think that a government that struggles when it comes to healthcare can handle something as complex as these innumerable clandestine operations with absolute tight secrecy, and only Alex Jones can know the truth. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, it's just, you can't, a government is either made up of people who try their best but are often very incompetent, which is honestly what it is. You know, let's not make any qualms about it. Or it's these great elites who are, I mean, why even bother with the guise of democracy? If in Alex Jones' world, when everybody's trying to reduce the population to 10% of what it is now, and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers have these doomsday bunkers prepared for when they unleash their virus on the rest of us. I mean, in that world, why bother with elections? Like, if these people are that, why would they bother saying, oh, well, we hope the people vote for our candidate? I mean, I don't understand the why bother with all that?
Right.
You know, I don't get it. But
well, I think the reason people like conspiracy theories is because it brings like order or like reason to something that's completely unreasonable and erratic, like Sandy Hook. Like, he could sit there and talk about all this lunacy about it, but at the end of the day, it's a random, horrible act, and it gives somebody closure to go, oh, this is exactly why it happened, instead of, in reality, nobody really will ever know exactly why it happened. I think that's why people like conspiracy theories. Like,
that's a good point.
John F. Kennedy died, and it's like, why did it happen? Is it the mafia? Is it the Cubans? Is it Lyndon Johnson? No, really, just some communist with PTSD shot him from like the 6th floor of a book depository. That's just what it is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're absolutely. Actually, you know what? That's a fucking fantastic point. I know that explanation isn't satisfactory.
Right.
But that's the nature of evil, right? I mean, people are like, well, it would make more sense to me if it was this. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Me too. But that's not the way it is.
No.
You know, somebody gets shot on the street. Everybody wants to think there's a big reason behind it for his loss, but there isn't. Sometimes some guy was just trying to mug him.
Yeah.
Look at Batman's parents. It's the best example I could think of somebody getting shot in the street.
Yeah. You ever seen American Gangster with Denzel Washington?
I have not.
There's a part where this like his rival dealer, just like in the middle of the movie, it's Idris Elba, and he puts his pistol right to his like forehead, and he goes, "Oh, what, are you gonna shoot me in front of everybody?" And he just pulls the gun and walks away. I'm like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Denzel Washington is the man, and especially because of that.
He's making another. What didn't he make? Was it Equalizer?
2.
He's making another one. That movie I thought was really stupid. I'll be honest. Everybody liked it and was like, "Oh, it's so badass." And I'm like, so this, I just don't like the spy amongst us motif has been done to death, You know, I mean, look at like how many times has there been a retired super spy reluctantly dragged out of retirement? And I'm like, where are these people coming from? Like these one-man armies, these wrecking balls, like the Liam Neeson and Denzel Washington and the law-abiding citizen guy,
Right.
Gerard Butler or whatever his name is. Like, who is the government is creating these guys, and they know what they're capable of because they got all this advanced training, and then they're just letting them work at like a hardware store,
Yeah.
and no one's keeping tabs. I mean,
I have a flower shop now.
that's the premise of all these movies. Is like, oh, thanks, you know, happy retirement.
Yeah.
No.
Here's your gold watch. Try not to kill anybody with the pieces of it, because I
Yeah.
know you can.
Try not to let anything happen that'll let you use these terrifying skills to butcher our citizens. Yeah, thanks.
Fun fact, this is the first time in his entire career Denzel Washington has done a sequel, and I'm very sad it's for like this movie
Is
instead
that
of
true?
something super cool. Yeah.
I don't think Equalizer's worth a sequel.
Oh, I'd agree.
If he's gonna pick his first ever, is that like an ideological thing? Like he doesn't like sequels?
It wouldn't
or-
surprise if it was, because I mean he's been in a lot of really good stuff, and
Yeah.
to make sequels out of it, not to mention the fact that like you can't make a sequel to Malcolm X because you did that his entire life. What's the sequel? Malcolm X from the Dead? No.
Well, hey, Malcolm X Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, that's
I wouldn't
true.
be surprised if that was on somebody's radar.
Hey, Spike Lee joint. Out of all the Spike Lee joints, that's my favorite. I love Malcolm X.
I haven't seen it. I've heard that it's good. Hey, there was a list I was making one day when I was driving to work about, I was thinking about, what are we going to talk about on the podcast?
Right.
Like, and pointless things we do on an everyday basis. And I'm going to ask you for one of the most pointless things I think exists today. Do you have a LinkedIn?
I do.
Why?
Because when I was in a frat, the guy, to get one of the signatures, I got kicked out of this frat. That's a different story for a different day.
Oh, God, I got to know this. We'll save that for the next podcast.
Yeah, but so to get one of the signatures, the guy was like, you need to get a LinkedIn and show me that you got a LinkedIn. So I was like 18. I was like, what the hell is that? And I got a LinkedIn, and I have not used it since.
Yeah, I presumably, especially in like the last job I had, I put it on LinkedIn and I connected with like the 100 or so people that I'm connected with on there. And I understand theoretically that it's supposed to be this network of professionals, but nothing happens on LinkedIn.
Right.
You go to Facebook and you can browse. Really nothing, I guess, technically happens on Facebook either, except like events or you see shit and sometimes news, which is concerning. We touched on that earlier.
Yeah.
But like LinkedIn is like, who's it for? I just don't understand. Like I have one because I was like, I guess this is the next logical step. Like once I have a career type job, I should get this.
Right.
But no, I mean, all the people I work for at the heads of these companies that I've worked for are too old to have one, so they don't have one. Mm-hmm. And all the people below me who are like at the entry level jobs, they all have one, but I don't care. Like,
right.
Why do I need to connect with them? You know what I'm saying? Like, they have my number. I don't need to. What am I going to do? Send them a LinkedIn personal message?
Yeah.
Have you ever got a LinkedIn message from somebody?
I have not.
Neither have I. I mean, it just doesn't happen. I'm very confused about LinkedIn. That was number one. Because I have it, and I won't get rid of it, but I don't know why I have it or why I won't get rid of it. You know what I'm saying? It's interesting that it can exist in that limbo and still make a lot of money, presumably. The other one was security guards. Okay, so let me get this straight. And this came about because I was driving from my house out to the East End, and I passed the St. Matthews and Oxmoor malls, the big malls. And one of them has security because it's like the less nice mall. Like the Oxmoor doesn't have security that I've ever seen, at least. But then St. Matthews does. They always have security guys walking around.
Right.
And these guys are just either they're like kind of like dropout, burnout type kids that are in their early 30s,
mm-hmm.
or, and I hate to say this, but I mean, or they're like 50-year-old men who are about to retire who want a part-time job with guts and they can't walk, without sitting down and having a puff on their inhaler. So it's like, I was like, what is the point? What do they do? Tell me a scenario where the owner of these malls who pays all their salaries says, oh, thank God we had the security guards.
Because when a kid steals a CD from the local 5 and Dine in the mall, who's going to be there? Who's going to take him away? The guy that works there who's presumably smarter and in better shape than the security guard, or the guy with the badge and the pepper spray on his utility belt. Gave me the utility belt all day.
But he can't do anything.
If you try to run, I'll spray you. Okay.
You can't. Well, you can't. They can't do that. I mean, all they can do is ask that you stay.
Right.
And if you don't, they can't enforce anything because they don't have any enforcement ability legally.
Are you a cop? No. Well, there's that Family Guy where she goes, "Excuse me, sir. It's officer." No, it's barely sir.
That's so true. It's officer. No, it isn't. Then it's like, I don't understand what the point is because it's not cheap. I mean, some of those guys, like the older guys, they won't work for nothing. You got to pay them probably
right.
$16, $17 an hour. I mean, that's like, let's say you've got 1, 2, 3. I'm trying to think of how many different ones I've seen because I used to spend a lot of time there. You know, in high school, they used to go on field trips and we'd eat lunch there and all that shit. I'm going to say probably they've got 8 or 9 security guards. And with their salaries ranging from like $12.50 to like $15 an hour or whatever. Let's say, because that's realistic. And you got to buy their uniforms, which actually are like oddly intricate for I don't know why. I mean, he could wear jeans and a t-shirt and have the same ability to enforce things.
Oh, yeah, but how do you know he's a security guard then?
That's what they're relying on, is they're relying on people not quite knowing whether or not they could actually get in legal trouble for this. But no, the kid who steals shit from the Five and Dime, like you were saying, he says, "Hey, stop right there." No. And he just walks out the door. What's the guy going to do? Tackle him? Then he's going to take him to court and sue him for fucking assault.
Yeah, hey, I know this mall makes like $10 a week, but, you know, you tackled me, so I'm going to sue you for everything you have.
Like I was walking out of that story I told earlier about my new favorite 6'5" black guy who made the T-Rex and the ape hump in the middle of Walmart for no goddamn reason. I mean, me and Charles looked at each other because we both saw it and we go, man, that I had a warm feeling inside, like a restored faith in humanity.
No, I feel that.
When I saw that. But we were walking out of there, and literally I had a case of beer, and I think I bought like a light bulb, like a thing of light bulbs. And it was in the Walmart bag, and the self-checkout area that you go to is like right there by the door. But then they've got the guy, like the reverse greeter. You know, he's like the demoted greeter. And he's the good buyer or whatever. And he's like, "Can I see your receipt?" You know, and Charles was like, had just a case of beer in a bag, and he just walked out of the thing. I mean, the guy, you know, I'm going with this. And the guy, this has happened to me all the time, every time I go there. And I feel like everybody's walking by, and it's always me he calls out. And I'm like, what is it about me? I'm not even like that sketchy looking guy. I'm just an overweight, kind of average height white guy walking out of here having bought some beer. What the fuck? Like, why is it me? And so Charles handed him the receipt, and he looked in his bag or whatever. He was like, "All right, thanks." And he turned to me. He goes, "Mind if I see your receipt?" I was like, "Sure," really happy and sarcastic, and handed him the receipt. And they just walked out. Like, I was like, "You can keep it."
Wait, you handed the receipt and just left?
Yes. Ask Charles about it next time you see him. Charles cracked the fuck up about it. And because I was like, man, I'm kind of in a hurry to, like, I was like, let's get moving. Like, this is stupid. We're waiting for him to look and see. Oh, yeah, let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it is a 12-pack. I mean, what the fuck is he? What the fuck is he doing? Why did I buy? In his mind, me and Charles went in there. It's like the Alex Jones world this guy lives in. That me and Charles went in there and said, how can we plan this out to where we can get away with stealing $25 worth of cheap, shitty beer? And we fake checked out, you know, had a, you know, put the receipt in the bag that we took for some reason, and then we're walking by. Oh God, I hope he doesn't catch us. I mean, what is his job? Again, let's say I stole it. Can I see your receipt? And I'll be like, oh no, I stole it. What's it? What happens? I'm just gonna be like, bye.
What did he say to you after you just like were like, here you go, and you left? Like,
I don't know, because I left.
I was really hoping it was gonna be like, fuck you. Like,
no, it was a great. I mean, honestly, I try not to be just rude for no reason, but this guy was just. I mean, he's holding me up and sitting here and like taking 30 seconds to check that Charles bought a beer, like a thing of beer. That was the only thing in his goddamn bag.
I was really hoping the next thing was gonna be like, are you 21? Yes. Are you sure? Yes.
I mean, no, I literally, he goes, because he didn't ask, can I check your bag? I was going to, you know, I like made eye contact with Charles. I was like, watch this. And so the guy goes like, mind if I see your receipt? And I'm like, sure. And I hand it to him and just keep walking, like head held high, like happy, whatever. And I just left it in his hand and left the store.
My question is, what the hell does he do with it? Is he just like, throw this out or what? Like,
he goes, man, you know what though? I didn't ask this. All I asked was, can I see his receipt? Anyway.
He just walks by, that guy's really cool.
Yeah, what a cool guy. No, again, almost all security guards. There were some other things on the list, but we're running out of time now. So we're coming up on an hour. It's been a good podcast. Always enjoyable, Michael. What's next time? You got to tell me that story. We got what was it? You got kicked out of a frat?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna touch on that next time. But until next time, this has been the Smoking Barrels Podcast.